How did you find you were getting cheated on? He gave me his phone to hold while he was having a minor medical procedure, and while in the waiting room, a text came through. It said something like, so we can do the deed again, and I was totally confused. So I scrolled up through the text thread and read, I'm sorry if you feel guilty, and no, I'd only feel guilty if I still loved her, and that was the end of that relationship. I was pregnant, and they were doing the standard tests including STDs, and I tested positive for chlamydia. I was so embarrassed, but glad to have found out, because it turns out that can really mess up a pregnancy. Still took me another year to file for divorce though. Edit. Since this seems to have confused many people somehow, I was married. My husband got caught cheating on me while pregnant. I forgave him. He came clean. I forgave him, and he did it a few more times, and we got a divorce. I don't know how this implies that I had a kid by another man, don't wipe properly, did butt stuff, had a false positive. My neighbor told me that there was an odd car parked in my driveway when the ex was supposed to be at work. The other girl was wearing my clothes in front of me. Edit. Thanks for all the love. Guys? The one part of this entire debacle that was hysterical was that she tried to deny that she was wearing my clothes when I confronted her. Until I pointed out the oil stain on the white shirt she was wearing, which my sister caused when she borrowed said shirt without asking. Plot twist. She and I are friendly now, and he's off being miserable somewhere else. My friends found out before me and knew they, the cheaters, were going to the movies together. My friends begged me to go see a movie with them so that I could catch them in the act, because they knew I wouldn't believe them if they just told me. True friends. Phone bill. She was texting some random number 600 times a month. I thought I recognized the number, and when I put it in my phone, it was a buddy of mine. When I saw her reflected in his sunglasses in a picture that he texted me. A man knocked on my door and introduced himself as the husband of a woman that my husband worked with. He was there to tell me that his wife was having an affair with my husband. My husband never came home after that. He got an Airbnb and told me to get a lawyer. We had been together for 24 years. She stopped giving me hugs. Sometimes you just know. Fuck guys. Thanks for all the love. Together for about 8 years, married for only 3. Crazy story. But we were living in an abusive scenario with another person, and she was what was keeping me sane. It was rough to realize she was cheating on me with this guy. I feel better now. Definitely learned over time that questioning yourself and spending time wondering what you could have done different is essentially pointless. Went on a solo road trip to CA from NY. My then BF of 5 years was supposed to fly to San Diego when I arrived. Then we'd drive home together. Pick him up from the airport. Use his phone to pull up directions for our restaurant reservation. He gets a notification from a social media app he must have forgotten to delete. I ask him about it. He grabs his phone and deletes the app. Says it would hurt me more to read the conversations he'd been having with women, and that I'm obviously going to dump him either way, so he wanted to save himself the embarrassment of getting exposed. I made him call his mom and arranged to have his stuff moved out of our apartment. Told him to find his own way home. Finished the road trip home without him. When I got home, it was like he'd never lived there. Exactly how I wanted. When she left me cause she got pregnant, and thought it was a different guy's. Turns out I was one of 3 possible dads. Couple years later and a few paternity tests, and turns out it was mine. 2 interesting ones from close friends. Friend's neighbor looked into her house from the 2nd floor and saw him fucking the nanny. They are currently in divorce proceedings, though he's still dating the nanny. The more interesting one is a friend was headed to Thanksgiving with her husband when she got a text from a woman saying, "Your husband has been fucking me and several other women," and gave a list of the women. She was aghast, not sure what to do. Then the woman sent pics as evidence. The woman was pissed as he had promised her he would spend Thanksgiving with her instead of his wife, my friend. My friend divorced him. Long story short, she lied about seeing a movie that wasn't coming out for another 2 weeks. I pressed and the truth came out. We stayed together under the guise of us working on us and fixing the problems that needed fixing. I tried. Hard. 2 months later, a mutual friend tells me that she's been seeing the one dude. I talk to him and find out that she's been seeing him and another 3 people, no safe sex, and pregnancy. Her roommates called and asked me to meet them for lunch, said it was important. I met them, and they told me she had been cheating on me with her ex the entire time I was deployed. They showed me pictures. Back when you had to get pictures developed. They said I was a good man and I didn't deserve to be treated like that. They had collected my things that morning when she left for work and gave them to me. I drove to her work, walked up to her, showed her the pictures and demanded the ring back. She gave it to me and I left. Later, she called me yelling about me conspiring with her roommates, basically trying to make it my fault. She asked what I was doing meeting with them. I said, "It's called respect and closure and it sounds like this." I unplugged the phone, landline, waited an hour, plugged in the phone and called the phone company, said I needed to change my number and never heard from her again. I took it really rough and am thankful for her roommates and the friends that got me through probably the darkest time of my life. The guy shot me a message on social media, said he was sorry and didn't know she was in a relationship. I bumped into him at a bar years later and bought him a drink. After 8 years together, he told me he wanted a break to figure out if this was what he really wanted. After I said no, it's either work on things or we end it. A few days later, he admitted he'd met someone. So basically, he asked me to hang around waiting for him while he fucked some other girl for a bit. Good riddance to that one. Had to cancel our plans as some important work stuff came up. Ended up wrapping up earlier than expected. Decided to drive to her place to surprise her. I was the one who was surprised when I noticed someone else's car in her driveway. Literally and figuratively. She was sleeping with her boss. In the most cliched excuses. I really think if she'd said to me that passion and love was gone, we could have divorced amicably. Because I was miserable too. But when she cleaned out our house and bank account, well, that changed the dynamic just a smidge. Fuck you, Michelle. She messaged me naked pictures of him in our shower. He tried to play it off like it was an old pic, but it was clearly my shower with my stuff in it. Some people have a ton of audacity and zero shame. My son ended up in the hospital with pneumonia when he was just 6 weeks old. They couldn't find out what was wrong with him, and he ended up in the ICU. Turns out it was bacterial pneumonia, because his dad had cheated on me throughout my pregnancy, and gave me chlamydia, which then went into our son's lungs when I gave birth. I worked a lot to support my little family. She complained that I worked too much. I came home early to surprise her, but had forgot my key to the apartment. I called her and said, "Surprise, I'm home." She said, "Really?" I thought because she was happy I was home, but realized after the fact it's because she had her boyfriend there. Once I got to the door, I knocked. I called her and she wouldn't answer. I was able to peek through a part of the blind to see her helping him climb in the hallway closet. I left and went to drive around. I was in shock. She called me wanting to know where I had went. She was in the bathroom. I told her I knew and she didn't confess until the next day. She ended up deciding she was too young to be a wife and mom and left us. I was 19 and it instantly became a single parent. Ex-husband asked me to log into his email to get the address and directions for his gig that night. So, I asked him for his password. He quickly changed his mind and came up with all kinds of excuses about why he no longer needed the directions. Needless to say, I insisted on the password and found all their emails. The other woman found out about me when a mutual friend showed her my pictures with my dude and our kids on Facebook and contacted me to apologize and let me know she had been told he was single. We met for a drink and to compare notes. After she showed me texts and proof that he had been cheating on me for months, we both dumped him, flew off to party together in New Orleans for a few days, and have been besties for over 12 years. He was the best thing that ever happened to me, introduced me to what ended up being my tribe.